Hello, beautiful friends. Welcome to my channel. Welcome back if you're returning. Today, we're going to talk about self-trust and why building self-trust is so important. If you're new to my channel, my name is Sarah. I'm a certified life and business coach, and I help heart-centered service providers, creatives, and spiritual practitioners build the lives and businesses of their dreams. And this is Rosie. And if I don't touch her, she's going to wreak havoc. So she's joining us today. Today I wanted to talk, as I said, about self-trust. I've been going live every day in January. Sidebar, can't believe this is almost over. I almost feel like I'm going to miss it and maybe I'm going to keep going. But I'm going live every day in January to talk about all things related to goal setting, how to reach your goals, how to make sure that you reach your New Year's resolutions, how to keep the momentum that you might have felt at the top of the year going so that you can make sure that 2024 is the year that you want it to be. And I forget what day it was, but I think it was very early on in this series. It might have been the first video about why 90% of New Year's resolutions fail. I talked about why it's okay to break your commitments to yourself. Being in a place where you feel like it's okay to let yourself down and to not keep promises to yourself. We've also talked a lot about self-esteem. And self-trust is a critical part of our self-esteem, believing that you are the kind of person who follows through on things. So self-trust is a very key topic when we're talking about how do we reach our goals. And it's not one that I hear tied to goal setting nearly enough. So often when you're talking about goal setting, things get very mechanical and people are like, oh, you pick what you want and you set SMART goals and you make them specific and you make them measurable, you make them time bound and all of these things. But even within the SMART goal framework, the A stands for attainable. And a goal is only attainable if you're going to do the things you say you're going to do. And when we don't have a lot of faith in ourselves that we're going to do the things we say we're going to do, we can hold ourselves back from even starting things. So one way that I've seen this look is that somebody will say, well, I want to start a podcast and I want to do an episode a week, but I'm worried, like, what if I don't do it? And what if I tell people I'm going to do it and I don't do it? Or I want to go live on my Instagram once a month, but I'm afraid to promise it because what if I don't do it? I've even had people say, I want to start a membership or something in my business and I want to have a meeting every month, but I'm worried that I might not follow through. And like, what happens if I'm just worried that I won't be consistent with it. And anytime that comes up, what it tells me is we have a self-trust problem here. What do you mean you might not show up for your own membership, for your own meetings? What do you mean that you're going to start a podcast and you're worried that you're not going to follow through? There's a story that you have about yourself that you are not reliable, that you are not a person who completes things. And it's important to notice when we're saying these things to ourselves and to get curious about where that story comes from. When did we first start telling ourselves that? And where did we first hear it from? What do we get out of believing that we're the kind of person who doesn't follow through on things? And what do we lose when we believe we're the kind of person who doesn't follow through on things? Whose control do I believe this to be under? Is this something in my control, or do I have no control of this at all? It's kind of something we usually have a lot of control over. And so when we're thinking about building self-trust, like building self-love, it is not different than building trust in any other relationship. And right off the bat, if you have a relationship with someone else and there's no trust in that relationship, is it a good relationship? Can we have love without trust? Can we have respect without trust? At the very least, a relationship where you don't trust that the other person does the things they say they're going to do. You don't trust that they're going to follow through. You don't trust that they're going to show up when they say they're going to show up. At the very least, that is a relationship that's full of drama and probably stress. That's not necessarily what we want for our lives, and certainly not for our businesses. And so if your relationship with yourself doesn't have trust, it probably struggles to have love. If your relationship with yourself doesn't have trust, you may struggle with self respect. If your relationship with yourself doesn't have trust, it may have a lot of drama and anxiety. And if you want to build trust with another person, what needs to happen? Take a moment, think about it. What does someone need to do to earn your trust? I would bet they probably have to be where they say they're going to be when they say they're going to be there. I would bet they probably have to do the things they tell you that they're going to do without you asking them to do it and checking up on them. Maybe it's that they need to be consistent with their actions and their behaviors. Maybe you need time to observe that their words and their deeds match up. And that makes you feel safe with them and lets you know that they're a safe person to have in your life. When you're building self-trust, you have to do that for yourself. So you can start small with one thing, like the time you're going to get up in the morning. And you say, self, I promise you that we're going to get up at X o'clock every morning. And that's what we're doing for the next 30 days, going back to our habit stacking. And then you do it. You do it. And you show yourself, I can keep my word. I can be where I say I'm going to be when I say I'm going to be there. I can prioritize keeping my commitments to myself. Once you've done that with one thing, you take the win and the exhilaration of like, see, I can follow through on things, and you pick another one and you add on and you add on and you add on and you keep doing it. If you have a core value as a person of honesty and integrity or trustworthiness, if honesty is a core value for you in your life and in your relationships, how are you living that as it applies to yourself? If it's a core value, do you live like it is a core value? Do you live like it's important to you, that you are your word, and that when you say you're going to do something to anyone, including yourself, it gets done? Now, the to yourself, as much as for anyone else part, is important because a lot of people that I work with, especially, find that they will definitely follow through on commitments they make to other people. They don't follow through on commitments they make to themselves. So if you tell your boss you're going to be there at 8 a.m., you're there at 8 a.m. But if you tell yourself you're going to get up at 6 a.m. so that you can journal in the mornings, you may or may not wake up at 7:15 and rush to work. You tell your spouse you're definitely going to pick up groceries on Friday, then you definitely pick up groceries on Friday. But if you are home alone for a week, you eat leftovers and take out every day, right? There's something that happens sometimes for us where we find it easy to keep commitments to others, even if it's difficult. You may not want to be at work at 8 a.m., but you make it happen. You may not want to pick up the groceries on Friday, but you make it happen. There is challenge and discomfort that you're willing to endure to keep a commitment to someone else that you will not go through for yourself. And that might seem like a mild or minor thing. But the message that we then internalize is, I am not worth the effort. I am not worth keeping commitments to. It's okay if I come last. It's okay if I get bottom of the barrel, bottom of the heap levels of attention, intention, and follow through. This is where lack of self-trust erodes our self-esteem. We're not showing ourselves the respect of, if I tell you I'm going to do something, I do it, which makes us feel bad about ourselves and makes us feel like we're not worth following through on. It also erodes our relationships because then we're going into relationships asking other people to have more trustworthiness and integrity with us than we have with ourselves. It may not be that we have with them, right? Because again, we might always show up when we tell them we're going to show up, but we are not modeling what we will tolerate and accept in relationships from others. with ourselves. That can be a corrosive agent in our self-esteem, in our relationships, certainly in reaching our goals, definitely in business. So our self-trust is really a critical relationship to recover. So if you tell yourself the story that you just don't follow through on things, you are really flaky, you have this feeling that you like can't rely on yourself. You don't want to commit to things because you almost feel like you can't trust yourself to get things done or to follow through. If the idea of committing to something makes you nervous or anxious, and when you ask yourself why, you realize because you're afraid you won't follow through. Sit down, take out your journal. As always, I'll tell you to take out your journal and examine, why do I feel this way about myself? Is this acceptable to me? Is this how I want to live my life? Is this how I want to feel about myself? Is this reflective of my values as a person? What do I think will change if I learn to and train myself to be my word to myself? What do I think will happen long term if I never address this? What step am I going to take to start building trust with myself? What's one thing I can commit to doing every day, every week, long term, to show myself that I can be a trustworthy person to myself? What do I think will change in my relationship with myself when I've proven to myself that I am a trustworthy person to myself? Those are my thoughts for today. Let me know if this was valuable to you. I would love to hear your thoughts. Please let me know in the comments below if this was helpful. I cannot stress enough how this applies to every single thing in your life, whether it is your business, your fitness, your personal development, the way you take care of your home. This can really change a lot of things, just building up the muscle to always do the things you tell yourself you're going to do. Game changer. So please let me know if this was helpful for you. Leave a comment. If you have questions, please leave your questions. If it's a question that I think would benefit a lot of people, I may make a video to answer your question. So I always love receiving your questions. If you'd like to stay in touch with me, make sure you get on my email list. I share a lot of stuff about creativity, personal development, and business on my email list, and the link for that is below. Thank you so much for being here. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. It means a lot to me when you do. Okay, love you. Bye.